everyone, this is Creative Works by Annie and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be working on Skull Memento, and I have my red heart yarn. It's my favorite. If you want to pick some up, link in the description. This is a relatively bigger pattern. Ooh, I got cat hair flying around. It's not ghost, people. It's not ghost. It's cat hair. I have cats. So I am using the larger ball today, which I'm assuming I'll use maybe about half of it. This is a, gosh, I want to say it's a 1,000-yard one. So grab a big one or grab two 500 ones, 300 ones, something like that, okay? And I'm going to be using my size 6, which if I go to my cheat sheet, it's a 1.75 aluminum hook. I have my handy dandy scissors. I have my printed pattern here, and I've already started to read through it because this is the first time I'm seeing it, just like the first time you might be seeing this. So I already have some of my notes. You can see my scribbles, so that way it's easier for me to tell you. So I have my coffee ready. I have my pens ready. And I'm going to get my thread unwrapped. And I will be starting this soon. So go grab your stuff, grab your coffee, and come sit right back down to me. I don't know if it's going to be a 1-parter or a 2-part. Maybe it could be 3 parts because it's a pretty good size one. So I'll have a link for the thread I'm using down below, and I will have a link to where you could pick up the pattern on my Ravelry or my Etsy page. Okay, I'll see. So let's start with the foundation row. The foundation row of this pattern is really the most important one. If you get this wrong, your whole pattern is going to be out of whack, okay? So let's get started, and hopefully we're going to be getting this right together. If not, you won't know because I'll just edit it out if I get it wrong. Okay, so I'm going to start with a slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to triple crochet into this stitch right here. And I'm going to keep actually doing that 23 more times. We're going to end up with 24 of these little chain 3s and triple crochets, okay? So we're going to keep doing this till we get 24. So 1. And what you can do is put your triple crochet right in between there, and this will actually help open that up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, triple, and put your hook right inside there. Okay, we're just going to keep doing that. Okie dokie. So this is the base of the thing. I'm going to count real quick. I think I have my 24 little chains. So I'm going to double check though, because remember, this is the important one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Alrighty then. Okay. Yes, I'm wearing sleeves because it's chilly in my room, and I have my space heater turned off because it's quite loud. So I might have to take a short break here and there and warm up my room with the space heater and then come back. Okay, so now that we have our 24 little chains, okay, we are then going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is going to count as our first double crochet and our first chain 4. So now we're going to put a double crochet right here over this, what is a triple crochet. But just think of this as a chain and this is a chain, and then you're golden, okay? So now we're going to do this another time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Double crochet. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And then one more time right there. And this will give us 4 loops right here. I know it looks a little weird right now. However, when we join from the other side, this will be finished. Okay? So now we're just going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to put a double crochet right in this chain space. Chain 4. Double crochet. Chain 4. We're going to be doing that all the way down there till we get to the other end. See, this is what we got so far. They're all going to kind of slide to the center of where we did our little joining right there. So that's a good thing. So just keep chaining 4, double crochet in there, chain 4. We're just going to keep going until we get to the end. I'm going to, you can pause it here and catch up, otherwise I'm just going to speed up just for whatever's sake. Now when doing your chains, make sure you stay consistent and you keep them nice and tight. You don't want to keep them, or you don't want to make them too tight, but you want to keep them consistent. So that way the look is always the same. Now, some don't quite realize this, but as you crochet, like this is a large piece, you're going to get hand fatigue, brain fatigue, and so your stitches might change. Also, if you put this down and then come back to it, your stitches might also change. So try to be as consistent as you absolutely can. Okay? You can see that one's a little bit bigger than that. So now we have this long piece right here. Currently we should have 4 loops at the end, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we should have loops all the way across here, 22 of them. Now we're going to be working in this very last little spot here. Okay, we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to double crochet in there, chain 4, and then double crochet. We want to end up with 5 loops in this last one here. Which should give us 5 crochet or 5 double crochets. Maybe 6. Should give us 6 DC in there, I believe. Did I not pay attention and put that baby up there? Yes, I did. Okay, we should have 5 loops in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, yep, 5 loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that is 6 double crochets in this end piece. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 and 5, okay? I will tuck my tail back in later on. So we do our chain 4 again, and we're just repeating what we did the last time. Work our way right down, 1, 2, 3, 4. DC in that space, 1, 2, 3, 4, DC, 1, 2, 3, 4, DC, and we're just going to keep doing that all the way down. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know where my little girl is, but she is in here. I got Freya in here joining us today, and I also have Anubis in here. Anubis is yearning for me to turn back on the heater there. Okay, now we got all those filled in, and we're back at the very end. This mat I have is kind of sticky, and all the crumbs and specks all stick to it. So now what we're going to do to finish off this round, we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put a double crochet in there, and we're going to finish it off with a we're going to finish off with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3. Come on, 4. I have a cat that's trying to bust in or bust out. Bust in. We're going to be putting it in the 4th of, or the 3rd stitch. 1, 2, 3. We're going to finish that off. Okay. Okay, now that Aries is in my window, my office window, and enjoying that. I also taped my finger, I prepped, and I got my thumb brace on. So this kind of impedes me crocheting, but I still have my trigger thumb because I won't stop crocheting long enough to let it heal. So now that let's just do a quick recap for my sake. We have 5 loops in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have chain 4 and a DC all the way across. We then have, in this last loop right here, we have 6 DC and 5 loops. And then we have a chain 4 and a DC all the way across. And then we ended up with putting a DC right here and a chain 4, and then that gives us our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops and our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 DC. Okay, so we have to make sure we're even on both ends there. Oakley dokley. We're now going to put a simple slip stitch into that next chain space. We're going to do a beginning shell, and that's chain 3, 2, 3. We're going to put a double crochet in there, a chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Now we are going to chain 1, and over here in this next chain space right here, we're going to put a shell, which is a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, and a double crochet. That will be our, come on baby, that will be our standard shell throughout the whole pattern. 2 double crochets, a chain 2, and 2 double crochets. But for this very end one, we're going to add an extra 2. Now we're going to chain 1. We're going to put a shell in this next chain space here. Okay. Now as we work around, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to start with a shell right here. 1, 2, and a 1, and a 2. Now I'm going to put a single crochet in this next chain space here, and working a shell in the next one. Single crochet in the next one, shell in the next, single crochet, and then a shell in the next, and we're just going to keep repeating that till we get to the end. Okay, we're gonna put a single crochet right in there, and let's just review that real quick. Straighten it out just a tad. Make sure I'm still in the shot. Yep. Okay, so we started out with making our beginning shell, which is a chain 3 DC, chain 2, and then 2 double crochets. We're then going to chain 1, and then in this very end loop right here, we did 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. We then chained 1 and put a shell in this next chain space. We put a shell in the next chain space. Then we did a single crochet, a shell, single crochet, shell, single crochet, shell, single crochet, shell, single crochet, shell, single shell, single shell, single shell, single shell, single shell, single and shell. We then ended that round with a little single crochet. We are now going to put a shell in the next one. We're going to chain, was it chain 1? Yes, we are, looks like we are chaining 1 right here. We are now putting a chain 1, doing a shell in this next one. We're now going to chain 1 once again, and then in this very end loop, we're going to put 2 double crochets, a chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Come on. After that, we're going to put a chain 1, and we're going to put a shell in the next chain space there. Chain 1 once again, putting a shell in the next one. Okie dokie here. Let's put that out. So we just did our single crochet, then we did a shell, chain 1, shell, chain 1. Then we did 2 double crochets, chain space, or 2 chains right there, 2 double crochet, 2 chains, and double crochet. Then we chained 1, did our shell in here, chained 1 and our shell. So now we are going to mirror this other side. We're going to put a single crochet in this next stitch there, or that next chain space. Then I'm going to put my shell in the next one. Single crochet in the next. You know you're doing it right if you're mirroring the opposite side. We now have Aries that's going to be in here hanging out with us. He's just doing his pre-sleep grooming. Aries is just under 20 pounds. He's a big, giant orange cat. And then the next size down would be his, oh, he just sneezed. Next size down would be Anubis, which he's around 15 pounds. And then the other brother, Odin, who's around 12 pounds. They are slightly all different color oranges, but their mom and dad were both oranges.
Oh, you got the sneezes? You got the sneezes. Yeah, you got the sneezes.
And so at night, I must be the heat magnet, or they think I'm their mama or something. Well, I am, but I usually have Aries, the big guy, on my chest. Then I have my cat Himmel. He's usually right underneath my chin. Then I have Freya, who's on my stomach. Then I usually have Anubis and Odin, either alongside my legs or in between my legs. And then just for fun, I might have our cat named Zeus, or I could have Black Sabbath, or I could have Calypso also there, sometimes even Freya. So if you've ever seen that one meme where the husband is like, hey, I'm cold too, toss me a cat. Well, he usually has one or two cats on him as well. So I always wonder, why do I wake up so sore? It's because I'm sleeping in a funny position thanks to these cats. Okay, all that time I just finished all the way to the end there. So I did my last single crochet. I'm going to put my shell in there, that last loop. And then I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to finish off that round. Okay, let's look at what we got here. Make sure I'm in good camera shot to show everyone, and stretch it out just a little bit so that way it's easier to see. Okay, so we have shell. We started out with our beginning shell, chained one, did our 2DC, chain 2, 2DC, chain 2, 2DC, chain 1. We did our shell, chained 1, did our other shell, then we did a single crochet, shell, single, shell, single, shell, single, all the way around, all the way down till we got to the end where we ended up with our single crochet, our shell, chain 1, shell, chain 1, that last loop there. Once again, we did our 2DC, chain 2, 2DC, chain 2, 2DC, chain 1, shell, chain 1, shell, and then we mirrored the other side. We ended with a, come on baby, we ended with a shell right there and chain 1, and then we joined in the third chain of the beginning there. Okay, now I wanted to make sure that this was repeated quite a few times because this is the foundation. You screw up on this part, it could throw your whole piece off, and you might not notice until you get a few rounds in. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here for just a minute or a few seconds. Actually, you put it on pause and you complete these rows and make sure that yours looks like mine. Okay? Okay, now that we have you all hopefully set to go, let's start round 4. We are now going to slip stitch into this chain space right here. What I do is a little bit easier and quicker. I just chain 1 and then slip stitch over there. Okay? To me, it's just faster to do. You don't have to do that. You can take your time and slip stitch over work your way over to that. It's okay. It's all good. So now we are going to do our beginning shell again, which is chain 3, double crochet in there, chain 2, do our 2 more double crochets. Now we are going to chain 2, and we're going to skip this chain space right here, and we're going to put a shell into this next chain space, or the next shell space right here. Let me turn off my heater real quick. Sorry, boys. Sorry, boys. So now after that one, we are going to chain 2, 1, 2. We're going to put a double shell in that next chain space right there. Okay. We are now going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to put a double crochet in this shell space right here. 1, 2. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to put a shell in this space. Chain 2, put a shell in the next space, while you were catching up on round 3, I went and made coffee, got a snack, so you might hear it kind of percolating a little bit in the background there. Going to chain 2 and put another shell in this shell space. I'll review in just a moment. Freya just grabbed a toy. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. I did something wrong. Okay, now we're going to slip stitch into this chain space right here. I simply like to chain 1 and just slip stitch over there. We're going to make our beginning shell. So we chain our 3, put a double crochet, chain 2, and then put 2 double crochets in that same spot. And that gives us our beginning. Now I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to put a shell, I'm going to skip this little chain 1 space here, and I'm going to put a shell right in this space. Freya found her little toy, so she's playing in the background there. So now we're going to chain 2. I'm going to put a shell in this shell, or this chain space right here. Chain 2, and I'm going to put a shell in this chain space right here. We are now going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put a double crochet right in this chain space. Going to chain 3, and I'm going to put a shell in the next shell space, which is right here. Next we're going to chain 2. Going to put a shell in this chain space here. Also known as a shell space. Chain 2. I'll review in just a moment. Putting a shell in that next one. Now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Put a double crochet in the next shell space. I'm going to chain 3 once more. Then we're going to review. So what we have here is our beginning shell, chain 2. Then we have a shell in this next chain space, chain 2, shell in this chain space, chain 2, shell in this chain space, chain 3, double crochet in there, chain 3, then we do a shell, a chain 2, a shell, chain 2, shell, chain 2, and then a double crochet. We're going to do that 2 more times till we get to the end here. So working a shell in this one, chain 2, working a shell in the next one, chain 2, working a shell in the next one, now that we have our 3 shells, I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to put a double crochet in the next one. Just you can see the repeat, 3, the single, 3, single, 3, single. So yep, we're going to do another set of 3 shells. So a chain 3 right here, do a shell in the next one, chain 2, put a shell in the next one, chain 2, do a shell in the next one, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and because we got our 3 shells, yep, next one's going to be a double crochet. So now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to put a shell in this chain space right here. Chain 2. Going to skip this chain space and we're going to put a shell right in this one. Chain 2. Going to put a shell in the next chain 2 space. Chain 2 for our shell. Chain 2. I'm going to put a shell in the next shell space right there. We're going to chain 3. And because we are mirroring, hi baby girl, because we are mirroring the other side, our next one is going to be a double crochet right here. Chain 3, shell in the next one, chain 2, shell in the next one, chain 2, and then we shell in that third one, now because we did our 3 shells, next one's going to be a double crochet. So we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, DC, chain 3, and then we do our shell in the next one. Chain 2, and then a shell. We're going to chain 2, and a shell in the next one. Chain 3, putting a double crochet in the next one. Remember, we're just mirroring the opposite side.
What you guys doing? What?
Doing a shell on the next one. Shell in the next one. Chain 2 and then another shell. I'm over here looking at my snack in front of me. For this round, I'm going to take another bite. This time of year is really bad because little Debbie comes out with those big giant trees. Ooh, I can't help myself. I love those big trees. Love them, love them, love them. Okay. So like I said, we just are mirroring the opposite side. So then we end with a double crochet. Let me slide this over real quick. We end with a double crochet in that last shell, a chain 3, and then we're going to join it at the top of our beginning chain there. Hey Chubby, get off my laptop. Yeah, see, I love me some cake. It's the only time I ever eat Little Debbie snack cakes, and they have to be the big ones. I do have some control. I don't get the small ones. I'm good. I don't get the small ones. I was bad this year, though. I got 2 packs of the big ones. Okay. So now, so we are going to start round 5. Like I said, I normally just chain 1, skip a stitch, slip stitch over there. Going to begin our beginning right here. That was ugly. Put another double crochet there. Chain 2. Now we are going to chain 1, and we are going to put a shell in this chain space right here. chain 1. We're going to put a shell in this shell space right here. Now I'm going to chain 2, and in this chain space right here, I'm going to put a double crochet, chain 2. Okay, just have it boys out. Who let the boys out? Okay. We're going to put a shell in the next one. I will review after we turn the corner here. I think I need to put my wrist guard. My little clinkety clinks are bugging me. I'll do that after the, oh, that kind of stopped it. Now we're going to chain 2. We're going to put a shell in this next chain space. I'm all twisted up here. I set a shell in that next chain space there. Come on, baby. You can do it. Now we're going to chain 2, and we're going to put a shell in the next shell space there, and I will review. Tell me in the comments below what your favorite Little Debbie snack is. Are you a good person and don't snack on them too much? Or are you like me and buy a whole box and eat it right away? I try not to eat more than one a day. We did our beginning shell. We did our chain 1, our shell in that next chain space, chain 1, shell in the shell space, chain 2, double crochet in that next chain space, chain 2, shell in the next shell space, chain 1, shell in this chain space right here, chain 2, chain 1, and then shell in this next shell space. We are now going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to put a double crochet right on top of that stitch here, chain 3. We're going to put a shell in this next shell space, chain 2 to finish the shell. We're going to chain 2, skip the next chain space, putting a shell in the next shell space. Chain 2, shell in the next shell space. And then we're going to chain 3, skipping the chain space, putting a double crochet right on top of that next stitch there, basically doing what we did the last round. At least for the long sides. And chain 2 in between our shells. Chain our 3, putting our double crochet right on top of there. see a potential problem happening. There we go. Okay. Okay, carry on. I had to go let 3 cats out of the room. Ay, caramba. Now it's just me and all of you. Okay, so we're going to keep continuing on with our shells right here. Chain 2, shell, chain 2, finishing up our shell, chain 2. I will review once I get done with this straight side here. Then 1, 2, 3, double crochet in the double crochet, chain 3. Let's do a quick review. So this long side, we basically just did what our last round was. We did our double crochet on top of the double crochet, our 3, chain 3 on either side, our shell, chain 2, shell, chain 2, shell, chain 3, double crochet, chain 3, shell, chain 2, shell, chain 2, shell, chain 3, double crochet, chain 3, shell, chain 2, shell, chain 2, shell, chain 3, and then double crochet. Now we're going to be working in our corner, so we're going to be putting a double crochet, or our shell in our shell, I should say. Chain 3, we're going to then put a double crochet right on top of this double crochet. Chain 3. We're going to be doing the same thing as what we did from our last row on this side as well. Just doing the mirror image of the other side. After our shell, we chain 2, shell in the shell, chain 2, shell in the shell, and we're going to chain 3. We're going to put double crochet right on top of that double crochet. Then we're going to put a shell in the next shell. Chain 2, put a shell in the shell. Chain 2, put a shell in the shell. Chain 3, putting a double crochet right on top of the double crochet there. Followed up by a chain 3 and a shell in the next shell space. Chain 2 and shell in the shell space. Chain 2, and then we shell in the next shell space. We're now going to chain 3. We're going to put a double crochet right on top of that last double crochet. Oh, now Freya wants in. I told her once she left, she's going to have to stay out. We'll see how long I hold out. We're going to end with a chain 3, and we're going to slip stitch on top of our beginning chain. I'm going to just chain 1 right here, just to help for the next round. And let's see, we're going to be getting off the board here pretty soon. This is a long one. This is generally, I want to say between 2 and 3 feet long, depending on your thread, your hook, how tight or how big you make your stitches. Okay, it's going to be a biggie. It's going to be a biggie. So stick with me. We'll get this done together. But we did our beginning shell, chain 1, shell in the chain space, chain 1, shell in the shell, chain 2, double crochet in that chain space, chain 2, shell, chain 1, shell in the chain space, chain 2, shell, and then we just basically copied what we did on round 4. And then we went all the way to the end and we did a shell, chain 1, shell in that chain space, chain 1, shell in that shell space, chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, shell in that shell space, chain 1, shell in that chain space right there, chain 1, shell in that shell space, chain 3, and we basically just copied the same as we did on that previous row. We ended with a chain 3 and we joined with a slip stitch in top of our beginning chain. Okay, now we are going to, I always do my quick switch over, chain 1, and then I do a slip stitch into there. We're going to start our beginning shell. We're then going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip this little chain space, skip these 2 stitches, and in this chain space right here, we're going to put a single crochet, a chain 3, and a single crochet. We're then going to chain 3, and we are going to put a shell in this next shell space right here. We're going to chain 2. We're going to put a double crochet, a chain 4, and a double crochet right on top of this stitch. Okay, so after we did our double crochet, our chain 4 and double crochet, we're going to chain 2. Going to put a shell in the next one. We are then going to chain 3. We're going to put a single crochet, we're supposed to be doing a chain 2 there. Not a chain 3, so it's a chain 2. And then a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 3, putting a shell in the next shell space. We are then going to chain 2, and on top of this stitch right here, we're going to put a double crochet and a chain 4. Chain 2, put a shell in the next shell space. chain 3, put a single crochet, a chain 2, and a single crochet. In that shell space, chain 3, putting a shell in the next shell space, we're going to chain 2. In this stitch, we're going to put a double crochet, a chain 4, and a double crochet. Shell in the next shell space. If I didn't mention it, you're making 2 right after your DC right here. Now we're going to chain 3, go down into this shell space and put a single crochet, a chain 2, and a single crochet. Then we're going to chain 3, put a shell in the next shell space. Once I get done with this straight side, I will go and review for you. We're going to chain 2, put a double crochet, a chain 4, and a double crochet right there. And a chain 2, and a shell, chain 2, and a shell, and chain 3, putting a single crochet, a chain, maybe, a single crochet, a chain 2, and a single crochet. The next shell space, chain 3, shell in the next shell space, chain 2, we're going to DC, chain 4, and a double crochet in that same spot. We're going to chain 2. Okay, let's review what we have so far here. So we did our, trying to make it straight so you guys can see it better. We did our beginning chain, our beginning shell right here, chain 3, supposed to be chain or a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet, chain 3. Then we do our shell in the shell, chain 2, DC, chain 4, DC on top of that stitch, chain 2, shell in the shell, chain 3, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in that shell space, chain 3. Then we do a shell in the shell space, chain 2, double crochet, chain 4, double crochet on top of that one, shell. Then we did our single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, 3, chain 3 on each side. Then we did shell, chain 2, DC, chain 4, DC, chain 2, shell, chain 3, single crochet, chain 3, single crochet, chain 3, shell, chain 2, DC, chain 4, DC, chain 2, shell, chain 3, single, chain 2, single crochet, chain 3, shell, and then we're going to basically repeat that all the way around till we get to the end. We're going to join it with a chain 2 and a slip stitch into the top of the beginning. So I'm just going to work on over and I will meet you right here. Okay, so let's start round 7. So once again, I'm just chaining 1, slip stitching into there. I'm going to start my beginning chain or my beginning shell. I'm now going to chain 2, and I'm going to put a double crochet right next to that single crochet right there, next to it, not in it. And I'm going to put a double crochet in this chain space right next to this one. Maybe. It just does not want to go for me. I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to put a shell in the next shell space. I'm then going to chain 2. I'm going to skip this chain right here, and I'm going to put 9 double crochets in this chain space, 9 of them. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to put a shell in the next shell space. I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to put a double crochet here and a double crochet there. And then a chain 2, put a shell in the shell space. Let's review real quick. I'm going to chain 2 and get ready for the next section. So what we did was we did our, my camera moved, sorry about that. What we did was we did a beginning shell, a chain 2, a double crochet, and a double crochet, 1 in each those 2 chain spaces there. So a double crochet in that chain space and a double crochet in that chain space, chain 2, shell in the next shell space, chain 2, put 9 in that big opening chain right there. So you have 9 double crochets, chain 2, then we did a shell in the shell space, chain 2, double crochet in that chain space, double crochet in that chain space, a chain 2, and a shell in that shell space. And basically we're going to be working that same thing all the way around. So I'm going to do a little bit more, and then I'm just going to let you keep repeating. You can always go to that same timestamp that I'll have down below listed for that round, and you can just repeat it however many times you need to go around. But let's continue on for just a little bit to show you that you're repeating the same pattern. So we're chaining 2, and we're putting 9 double crochets that next big chain space there. Five, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Going to chain 2. We're going to shell in the next shell space. Chain 2, putting a double crochet, 1 in each one of those chain spaces there. Chain 2, shell in the next shell space. I'm going to chain 2. Once again, put 9 in this chain space. Now we're going to chain 2 and put a shell in the next shell space. I'm going to chain 2 and set this down for you. See, we're basically repeating the same thing all the way around. So I'm going to stop it here. You can go down in the description, go to round 7 and click on that little blue number right there, which will take you back to this spot, and it will keep doing that, show you that repeat if you need it. Okay, otherwise I will see you when we start round 8. Okay, now that was the end of round 7. Hopefully that went well for you. Just to do a real quick recap, there was a shell. We did our beginning shell, our chain 2. We put a double crochet and a double crochet, one in each of those chain spaces. Did a chain 2, a shell, a chain 2, 9 double crochets in that big chain space there, a chain 2, a shell, a double crochet in this chain space, double crochet in that chain space. That was a chain 2. Then we did a shell, and then a chain, or 9 double crochets, shell, DC in this chain space, DC in this chain space, and we worked that all the way around. Okay, so now we are on round 8. Okay, let's start round 8. We're going to chain 1 and then get into our beginning right there, and we're going to make our beginning shell. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip this chain space, skip this stitch, and put a double crochet right in between those 2 stitches there. We're going to chain 3. We're going to put a shell in the next shell space. Going to chain 3. And if you've ever done my skulls before, you kind of know what we're going to be doing here. We're going to put a double crochet or a DC tog in this stitch. A DC tog, if you're not familiar with that term, I use it a lot. It would be like a 2 DC together, 2 DC cluster. It's basically you're making 2 double crochets in here, but you're working them up together. So let me show you what I mean. Yarn over, act like you're going to start making your regular double crochet, and then we're going to yarn over and we're going to put that in there, and then act like we're making a regular double crochet. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and there you have your DC tog, or your DC together. Okay, now we're going to chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet in the next one, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet in the next one, chain 1, skip stitch, double crochet in the next one, chain 1, skip stitch, and put a DC together in that next one. Once again, you start off by looking like you start in a double crochet, then try to start another one in the same spot, and then go through all 3 loops. Now we're going to chain 3. We're going to put a shell in the shell space. Who's whining at the door, who's meowing at the door is Himmel, but he's a really annoying one, so we're just going to leave him out there right now. So now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip this chain space, skip the stitch, and put a double crochet right in between those two double crochets right there. Going to chain 3, we're going to put a shell in the next shell space. Okay, so around this bend, all the chain spaces are going to be chain 3s. Now on the length side, all the chains are going to be chain 2. Okay, so please note that. Please kind of remember that. So after this shell right here, we're going to chain 2, skip the chain space, do our DC tug in that first stitch, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet, maybe not, chain 1, skip the stitch, double crochet in that next stitch there, chain 1, skip stitch, double crochet, chain 1, skip stitch, double crochet, chain 1, skip stitch, and then DC tug in the next one, chain 2, I'm going to skip the chain space, put a shell in the next shell space, chain 2 there. Ooh, that cat wants in. I don't know if you can hear it, but that cat wants in. Chain 2, and then put a DC in between those 2 stitches there. Chain 2, we're going to shell in the next shell space. Chain 2, those last 2 double crochets there. Okay. Now you're repeating this right here all the way over to this last one right here. Okay? And then when we round the corner, we have to make sure that we do a chain 3. Okay? So we're chaining 2, DC tug, chain 1, okay dokie. I'm going to continue on. So you just remember you're doing, all these ones are chain 2 spaces, and then when you get to the ends, it's a chain 3. So go pause here, and you can always go back to the link for round 8 in the description to watch that again. And I will see you at the beginning of round 9. Okay, so we are round 9. We ended with a chain 2 right into our beginning shell right there. So just to recap, we did chain 3 on all of these chain spaces, and then along the long side they were all chain 2s. Otherwise it was just the same repeat. Okay, we are now going to start round 9. And my favorite way to skip ahead, to do that, we're going to chain 1, go into this shell right here and do our beginning shell. Now we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to skip this chain space, skip this stitch, and skip this chain space, and put a shell in the next shell space. We're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip this chain space. We're basically going to repeat this right here. So we're going to put a DC together on top of that. Chain 1, skip that chain space, put a double crochet on top of the double crochet. Chain 1, skip that chain space, put a double crochet on top of that double crochet. Chain 1, skip that, put a double crochet. Ooh, sorry, got distracted by a cat. Chain 1, skip that chain space, put a double crochet right there. Chain 1, put a DC tog on top of that other DC tog. And we're going to chain 3. We're going to put a shell in that shell space. 1, 2, chain 2, and then we do our 2 double crochets. Now we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll do a quick recap in just a moment. Make sure I got my 6 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now that I got my 6, I'll carry on. Okay, we're going to chain 3, and then I'll set this down and do a recap. So what we did here was we did our beginning shell, we chained 6, we skipped the chain space, the double crochet in the chain space, then putting a shell in the shell space. We then chained 3, worked just like we did before, the DC tog, then chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and then a DC tog on top of that. We did a chain 3, skipped that chain space, did a shell in that shell space. We chained 6, and we skipped the chain space, the stitch, and the chain space, and we put a shell in that shell space. Okie dokie. Let's carry on. And by the way, this is how you're going to do the opposite side for the repeat. So now we're going to chain 3. We're going to copy just like our first row of teeth here. DC tog, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and DC tog, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to put a shell in the shell space. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip the chain space, skip the stitch, skip the chain space, and put a shell in the next shell space. We're going to chain 3, DC tog, on top of the DC tog, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and then a DC tog. Let me go over this real quick. So on the flat side, you're going to do your chain 3, your DC tog, chain 1, DC tog, or chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, DC tog. Now chain 3, shell in the next shell space, chain 3, skipping the chain space, the stitch, and the chain space, putting a shell in the next shell space. We're going to keep repeating this right here all the way to the end. I'm going to continue that with you, and then I will let you hit the repeat and work the back side all by yourself. But for now, let's carry on. So we're going to chain 3, shell, chain 3, skip all that, put a shell in the shell space, chain 3, DC tog, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, I dropped a stitch there, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and then DC tog, chain 3. Now remember, I do crochet a little fast, so if you go to the bottom, I'm actually going to see where I'm going to put this right here so you don't see what I have playing here. Now, if you're on a laptop, you can go on just on the bottom of the screen, and it will have, I think it's a CC for closed caption. Sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. On my videos, I don't know why. I always click it, but I have no idea. I must be forgetting something each time. And then next to that is a little gear. So you click onto the little gear and you can adjust the speed, make me faster or make me slower. And so if you're on a cell phone, I have an Android right here. I don't know if it's different for Apple. I'm not sure. But on I don't know if you can see it. There's a little tiny gear right up at the top. If you click onto that, you should be able to playback speed. Okay, I don't know if you can see it with the glare, but it says playback speed, and you can change that to whatever speed you want. Okay, so after that shell, we're going to chain 3. Shell in the next shell space. Gonna chain 3. Gonna put a DC tog in the DC tog. Chain 1, double crochet in the next one, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and then DC tog in that stitch. Gonna chain 3, put a shell in the next shell, and now we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to skip these and put a shell in the next shell space. And with that, I will let you go and click on the timestamp in the bottom for round 9, and you can do the repeat, and then I will meet you when we get over here, and then we will start round 10. I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, we are now on round 10. And so just to do a quick little recap, we did our beginning shell here. We did a chain 6. We did a shell in the next shell. We did a chain 3. Did our row of teeth, a shell, chain 6. Move this up some. Then we did a 3, our row of teeth, a shell, chain 3, shell, row of teeth, chain 3, shell, 3, shell, 3, teeth, 3, shell, 3 shell teeth, 3 shell, then we did a chain 6, then we did our shell, 3 teeth, 3 shell, 6 shell, 3 teeth, 3 shell, 3 shell, 3 teeth, 3 shell, 3 shell, 3 row of teeth, 3 shell, 3 shell, 3 row of teeth, and we ended with a chain 3, and we joined with a slip stitch in top of that beginning chain right there. So now we're going to do round 10. Once again, I like to chain 1 and then just pop over to that chain space there, and I'm going to start my beginning chain. My beginning shell. Now we are going to chain 2. We're going to put a shell in this chain space. We're then going to chain 2 and put a shell in the shell space. I'm trying to keep this part underneath here so that way it's a little easier for all of you to see. This is easier on a black background. So we're putting a shell in this shell space. Now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And in this chain space, we're going to put a 3 DC cluster. Okay? You could also refer to it as a 3 DC together, or a 3 DC tog. We're just going to call it a 3 DC cluster. So what that entails is you act like you're starting a double crochet. You act like you're starting a double crochet again. Act like you're starting another double crochet right next to it. Now you're going to have 4 loops over there. You're going to yarn over and pull through all of those loops. And that gives you a 3 DC cluster. Now we're going to put a half double crochet in this next stitch. And we're going to put a single crochet in each chain space and each stitch right across there, giving us a total of 7 single crochets. Now that we reach this one, we're going to put a half double crochet right in top of that. And in this chain space, we're going to once again put a 3 DC cluster. That's starting a double crochet, 2 on the hook, or 2 loops on the hook, start another double crochet, 3 loops on the hook, start another double crochet, 4 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all of them, and you have yourself another 3D cluster. Then we're chaining 3, and we're going to put a shell in the shell space, chain 2, finishing up the shell. We're going to chain 2. We're going to put a shell in this shell space right here, or a shell in that chain space right there, I should say. Now we're going to put a shell in the next shell space. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to put a 3D cluster right next to, or in that chain space, just like we did before. Put a half double crochet in the next stitch, single crochet all the way across till we get to the other double or DC tog. Now we put a half double crochet right here. We put a 3D or a 3DC cluster right here. We're going to chain 3, put a shell in the next shell space. Now we're going, the pattern tells me to do a chain 2 and then put a shell in this chain space right here. And a chain 2, and then we're going to put a shell in the next shell space. We're then going to chain 3, put a 3D cluster in this chain space right here, half double in the next stitch, single crochet our way across to the next DC tog there. Putting a half double crochet in this stitch, 3 DC cluster right here, chain 3, shell in the next shell, chain 2, putting a shell in the chain space, chain 2, putting a shell in the shell space, we're now gonna, whoop, pulled that right on out, didn't I? Chain 3, putting a 3 DC cluster in that chain space right there, half double in the next, then a single crochet across till we get to that last stitch there. Now we're going to put a half double crochet in that last one, put a 3D cluster or 3DC cluster right there. I'm going to chain 3, shell in the shell, chain 2, shell in the shell in that next chain space there, chain 2, shell in the next shell space, chain 3, 3 DC cluster in that shell, next chain space there. Now we're going to do a half double, single crochet our way across, do a half double in that last stitch there, and then a 3 DC cluster, chain 3, and shell in the next shell space, and then this will take us to the repeat. So you can go and click the little timestamp for round 10, and it will start you back over to here, and then I will see you when we over right here, and I will see you when we start round 11. Okay, see you in a little bit. Okay, let's start on round 11. So hopefully you got all that all set to go there. Okay, so let's get started. Let's go and start our beginning shell. We're going to chain 3. We're going to skip this chain space and put a shell in this shell space right here. We're going to chain 3. We're going to put a shell in this next shell space. We're now going to chain 3 once again. And we're going to put 2 half double crochets in top of that stitch right there. We're going to put a half double crochet in the next stitch. Now we're going to put a single crochet in each one of the next 3 stitches. We're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to skip this stitch, put a single crochet in the next one. We're going to do 2 more single crochets. We're going to work a half double crochet in the next one. I will review this in just a moment. We're going to put 2 half doubles in the next stitch, and we're going to chain 3 and put a shell in the next shell space. We're going to chain 3, and I'm going to do a quick review for you. So far we did our beginning shell, chain 3, shell inside the shell space right there, chain 3, shell inside the shell, chain 3. We did 2 half double crochets in the top of that stitch right there. We then put a half double crochet in the next stitch. We then put 3 singles, a chain 4, skip stitch, 3 singles, a half double in the next stitch, and then 2 half doubles in that last stitch right there. We chained 3 and did a shell in the shell space. Let's continue on. We're then going to put a shell in this shell space. Chain 3, put a shell in the shell space, we're going to chain 3, we're going to skip this chain space, put 2 half doubles in that stitch right there, 1 and 2, put a half double in the next stitch, and then 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Going to chain 4, skip a stitch, put a single in each one of the next 3, half double in the next stitch, And then this is actually the stitch right up here, but it's going to leave a space. So I kind of take some real estate right there. I kind of just put it any old way in the top there. And it kind of fills that in, that little gap in just a little bit better. Okay, so chain 3, put a shell in the shell space. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to put a shell in the shell space. Chain 1, and another shell in the shell space. I'm going to chain 3, 2 half doubles in that first stitch right there, half double in the next, single crochet in each of the next 3, chain 4, skip stitch, single crochet in each of the next 3, I don't like that single crochet, let me tighten that up there, half double in the next stitch, and then I'll show you what I meant by I take up little real estate on this one. This is where you should crochet right here. So it leaves that little gap. See that little gap right there? Well, I personally don't like that. So what I do is I go in a little deeper into that stitch. And see, it hides it just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. And then we chain 3, and we're going to put a shell in the next shell space. Chain 1, put a shell in the next shell. Chain 1, do a shell in the shell. Chain 3, putting 2 half doubles in that first stitch right there, half double in the next stitch, single crochet in each one of the next 3, chain 4, skip stitch, single crochet in the next 3, half double in the next, and then like I said, I don't go here, I go in a little bit further and I put my 2 half doubles, I chain 3, shell in the shell, chain 1, putting a shell in the shell, chain 1, putting a shell in the shell, that's a little too loose for me. Oh, you got it loose. Chain 3, putting a 2 half doubles in that first stitch right there, half double in the next, single crochet in each one of the next 3, chain 4, single crochet in each one of the next 3. We're almost to the repeat, so I will go over this in just a moment. Half double, and then 2 half doubles in that last stitch there, chain 3, and then shell in the shell space. We're going to chain 2 right there. No, actually that's a chain 3. Okay. So what we did there is, this is where I will meet you in the end, and this is where when you go to hit the repeat in the link below for round 11, you're going to be brought right back over here. So you're going to have your shell, your chain 3, shell in the shell, chain 3, shell in the shell, chain 3, 2 half double crochets in that first stitch, half double in the next stitch, a single crochet in each of the next 3, chain 4, skip stitch, single crochet in the next 3, half double in the next stitch, 2 half doubles in that last stitch, chain 3, shell in the shell, chain 3, shell in the shell, chain 3, shell in the shell, chain 3, 2 half doubles in the stitch, then a single half double, single crochet in next 3, chain 4, skip stitch, single crochet in 3, half double in the next stitch, 2 half doubles in that last little stitch there, chain 3, shell, chain 1, shell, chain 1, shell, and you keep doing that all the way to the end right here. And now this is where I will leave you, and I will meet you over here, and we will start round 12 together. But you go down and in the description and you go click on round 11, and it will bring you back over here, and I will see you when we start round 12. Okay, see you in a bit.